Good morning, Daily Huddlers. Today, we're going to be talking about vulnerability. So I thought it would be fun to tell a joke about the opposite of vulnerability, which to me is a big, fat ego. So here we go. Do you know what you would call a man with a big, huge ego who just got convicted to prison and he's on his way down the stairs into prison?
Mm-mm.
A condescending.
Ooh.
Oh my gosh.
You have a lot of conviction with that joke there, Tara.
Oh my God, Tom, you always follow it up. You always follow it up with that. A lot of boom. Perfect drum roll. Oh, this is why I could never be a comedian. Here we are. Good morning again, Daily Huddlers. Welcome to Wednesday. Wednesday is the day we talk about communication and relationships because we believe that more effective communication builds better relationships, which builds a better life, right? Better communities, better family, better business. And today we're here with our family of friends at the Daily Huddle. I'm joined by my co-host, Kathryn Sabol, and we are really looking forward to a little bit of an unusual conversation today around vulnerability. But as we always do before I dive into vulnerability with Kathryn, and the question is vulnerability the secret sauce? I'm going to welcome a few of our family members to ask a few questions. And I think I'm going to start with Mr. Tom Montgomery. And I would like to ask you today, where are you and what are you grateful for, Tom?
Well, I am right here where I need to be. And I am, every time I get asked this question, I'll keep saying I'm grateful for the opportunity to learn. It's just so applicable, to my life. And so thank you.
Oh, so beautiful. Thank you so much. Fareed, good morning.
Hi.
I would love to hear from you. What time is it and who will you hug today?
The time is now, and I will hug myself today. I love myself. Yes.
I needed that reminder. Thank you very much for that. And I am going to save the last question intentionally for my co-hosts. Tell me, good morning, Kathryn. Tell me, how are you?
Well, I am the way I say I am. And today I'm excited. I'm happy and I'm excited. It's the last day of school. Summer starts tomorrow. Yeah, happy and excited.
Oh, I love hearing that. I'm glad you're happy and excited. And I am happy and excited about our topic. And we formed it in the way of a question, which we always try to do. And that is about vulnerability. Is it the secret sauce? So I know we really want to explore vulnerability and what it means. First, to you, Kathryn, tell us what vulnerability means to you.
Well, I have to admit, this is funny as when you asked how I am, I was like, I really am happy and excited. But right before we got on, and actually since last night, I've actually been dreading this Daily Huddle. I don't say that very often. I love coming on the Daily Huddle and hosting it with you, but the idea of being vulnerable, and I don't like that feeling. So what is vulnerability to me? When I was thinking about this, the opposite of vulnerability for me is armor. So vulnerability is being seen.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so, do you want to go back to our question after what you just shared? And so thank you for being so honest.
Yeah, it's vulnerability to the secret sauce. The secret sauce for what, right? So, well, we're always pointed towards relationships and communication. And so for deep, meaningful relationship and better communication to help support those deep, meaningful relationships, I would have to say yes. It is. If there were just one thing that you could come and bring to a conversation, I would say vulnerability could be that one thing that could transform a moment. We've all had those moments, So I think it is the secret sauce.
Okay. Well, we talked about something that I think, I don't want to say confuses people, but I guess people get mixed up between sharing things that are private and personal and thinking that's being vulnerable. And I
Yeah.
thought it might be helpful if you'd help us break that down, the difference between the two.
Yeah. Well, and I also want to talk about why is vulnerability so hard. I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe it's not hard for everybody, but for me, it's super hard. And this could be one of the reasons. I don't think it's the ultimate reason, but I used to think that being vulnerable was bearing your soul. Like you had to tell everything. Like you couldn't hold back any details, because if you held those details back, it meant you were being not vulnerable.
Yeah.
Right.
Or not honest. Right.
So for a while there, I overshared quite a bit. Like, too much, too many details, things people didn't need to know, thinking, and it always felt icky, because I didn't know the difference between, you don't have to share all the details. I think what it is like, it's why am I sharing these details? Or why am I not sharing these details? Am I holding these back because I don't want to be seen in that way? So anyway, I think it is a good distinction. Being vulnerable doesn't mean that you bare your soul, or you have to like literally open everything and tell every single detail. You don't have to be naked. You just, vulnerability, actually, sometimes it's harder to hold some of those details back, not tell everything, and yet bare your soul, share yourself with another person. And that's the hard part for me.
Okay.
Being seen like that, being vulnerable means you've opened yourself up to the potential of hurt. Somebody could potentially hurt you if they see something in you that they don't like, or, isn't that how that works?
Mm-hmm.
That when you're vulnerable, you have the opportunity to be hurt. If I'm not vulnerable and I'm totally guarded, there's less opportunity to be hurt because I'm pretty much in control. I'm letting you see what I want you to see, which are probably the parts of me that I'm most happy with.
Yeah, I'm seeing that. So let's just take it a step deeper, because you say it's hard. You weren't really looking forward to allowing yourself to be vulnerable. So how can someone hurt you when you're vulnerable?
Well, gosh, there's a million ways, right? I think, just like I said, saying something that criticizing you, or they mention a part of you that you don't like, I don't like being messy like that. It's funny. I've just been doing some work with my therapist about internal family systems, which just basically is like all the parts of us on the inside,
Mm-hmm.
And she talks about these parts that we exile, like parts of us that we don't accept. We all have parts of ourselves that we don't fully accept. And one of mine is being messy. Like, I do not want to be messy or sloppy. That means I need to look put together. I need to like come across put together. And so for me, like being vulnerable means like being messy and sloppy. It could mean being messy and sloppy. Now, the interesting thing is that the feedback I get when I am vulnerable and messy and sloppy, people say, oh my gosh, wow. Like they're really touched and moved and connect, because I think when we're vulnerable like that, that's when we really connect with other people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me, it is, some days we might just skate through life and conversations and we don't allow ourselves to go there because, just like you said, it's hard. And it takes an intentional energy. And I'll tell you what I've learned about it is I'm with you. It can be scary because, of course, we want people to think highly of us. We want people to like us. But what's happened for me as I've become a more vulnerable person, Kathryn, is some people have walked out of my life. They don't want to know. They want to talk about trips and decorating and dinners. And the flip side of that is the most beautiful people have walked into my life. These people that, like you, that want to have these deep, rich, honest conversations where we're safe to share what we're proud of, and we're safe to share what we're worried about, what we're insecure about, what we regret. And if I could turn the clock back and be less vulnerable to keep the friends that wanted to talk about the decorating,
Mhm, I understand. Yeah.
I wouldn't do it differently. So
Yeah.
that's why it is the secret sauce, because we're here on Wednesdays to help others and ourselves enrich relationships. And I think vulnerability is key.
Yeah. And I think, even Tom, when we opened, said he loves to learn. And like, I think everybody here who would be on the show or listens, is somewhere in that camp, really loves to learn and explore. And part of that is learning and growing, learning about ourselves, learning about another person. I mean, it's vulnerable to not have all the answers, to ask a question and really not know. Like, I could ask you, how are you? And I just really want the gloss over answer because I'm not really interested. I want to hear fine. And you go, Kathryn, I'm really not doing, and I'm, like that, like, and so I think that it's just, I just want to point towards that connection piece because I'm thinking when you said that, like, why do we want to connect like that? Why do we want to be vulnerable? And the feeling you get when you're truly connected to another person is amazing. It's what being alive is about,
What's fascinating, and this just came to me, is it feels unsafe to be vulnerable. But when we make those deep connections, that's the safest place you could possibly be, right?
It is. And it's so interesting because when I was thinking about, I don't want to go on, I don't want to be vulnerable. Like I used to say I have a love-hate relationship with vulnerability, but I don't like the feeling of anticipating being vulnerable. But when I'm in it, it actually, like you said, it feels amazing to be connected to another person. It's the anticipatory dread. It's like the anticipating being open and vulnerable and connected, and probably the fear of getting hurt, the fear of being seen.
Yeah. So this could be such a long conversation. I definitely want to invite others in sooner than later and see what vulnerability means to them. But I do want to share, as I listen to you, why I think that I've strengthened that muscle over the years. It's not that I think it, I know why.
Mm-hmm.
It is because for me, the opposite of being vulnerable is to put on that glossy, everything's fine, that kind of toxic positivity. My kids are headed off to college. I drive the right car. I had the good job. I had the great marriage and the great trips and all those things. And for me, that makes me feel imprisoned. That takes so much energy for me to only just put out surfacey conversations around things that aren't really impacting the world. That for me is so tiring. And when I just allow people to see the real me, it's freeing.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me feel free.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, that is one of the real benefits of keeping a vulnerable spirit. Somebody put in the chat, and then I want to bring Tom in. He's got his hand up. Is vulnerability a weakness or a strength? I know what I think. But what do you think, Kathryn?
Well, I mean, I think you're probably gonna say the same thing I am. It's completely a strength to me. The way I would see it, the only reason it would be seen as a weakness is in the person who's seeing it as a weakness. Like if I think you're weak because you're vulnerable, that's really a weakness within me. It has nothing to do with you or your vulnerability.
Wow, yeah, that's absolutely correct. So let's see.
Wait, you got to say what you think.
I think that it takes courage to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
So I think it's a strength for sure. And especially if we're in a position where we are supposed to be the experts. We have a lot of entrepreneurs on here, and we position ourselves to be an expert in something. That's why we're an entrepreneur. And so to be in that space and for someone to say to me, like Sorrel asked me one time, Tara, tell me what the brain is doing in this situation. And I could have used my ego and just sort of dusted over it and been less than honest, but I didn't know the answer. And I think it's because I've strengthened the muscle. I just said, I don't know, but I'm going to research it.
Yeah.
And it's hard.
I think that's a really important point because we talked about that. And it's funny you mentioned Sorrel because Gio one time said that he loves to be wrong. And I literally was flabbergasted by that. I never told you that, Gio, but like, I was like, what? That's a thing? Like, no, because I do not. I like to be right. I really do. And it's like in a bad way, like it's not a strength of mine. It's like, that's something I have to work on. But when I was thinking about for this show this morning, I was like, oh, that's because that's my armor. If I'm right, I'm here and, I'm behind it and I'm right, versus I was like, anyway, so that was really eye-opening. Like, wow, I want to be proven wrong. Scary.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Hey, before we take these, bring the conversation in, which I'm super glad we're doing early, is I want to encourage all y'all with your hands up to be vulnerable. Don't bring us only answers. Let us see your vulnerable side. So.
Love it. There you go, Tom.
Oh, it just changes what I was going to say.
Can't put your hand down.
I'm just kidding. Good morning. Good morning. So you're talking about why is being vulnerable so hard? You've talked a little bit about pushing past the fear, and what I'm hearing you say is, reminding yourself of, the opportunity that could be there. But it does, to me, it begs the question, then how do you prepare yourself to be vulnerable? Because Kathryn, you mentioned a couple of scenarios where when you just open up and you're feeling particularly maybe even down or off, and then you still step forward, it seems like there's still some preparation you're doing. It might just be psyching yourself up. You're reminding yourself of the goodness that could come. But on the other hand, you may not be met in the way that you would like to be received.
That's a great question. Well, I can tell you how I prepared for today thinking about this. Which my answer, one, I would just say, I don't say push past the fear. I say be with it. Because the idea isn't just to barrel through it in my mind. I mean, sometimes I guess you would have to, but it's just to let it. So I get really uncomfortable. I allow myself to feel that discomfort. I allow myself to feel the dread of like, vulnerability. Even now as we're here, I'm like allowing myself, because I can feel my inclination, my desire to shut down and start to close off and start to talk like this and give you a bunch of answers or whatever. And I just go into my belly and my gut and I just go, okay, I just relax and just feel uncomfortable. Because for me, oftentimes what I'm trying to avoid is just that, feeling uncomfortable. And so that's what vulnerability is. I feel uncomfortable. And so if I just go like eliminate that as a thing and just go, I'm just going to feel uncomfortable, then it suddenly becomes a lot easier. I don't have to do a lot of mental jumping jacks.
So yeah, be with the fear, and then it sounds like you're then being all the more in the vulnerability.
Yeah, be with the fear, do it anyway. And also I think there are other ways to prepare is like set an intention. I did that for today. Like, okay, well, what do I really want? Because I don't know how it's going to go. I'm getting nervous because I'm not in control. Right. So I set an intention like, okay, I want one other person to take something away from this that's positive, and I want to be vulnerable and be myself. So yeah. And then let her rip.
That's awesome.
Oh, thank you.
I'm so proud of you.
I'm choosing next week's topic, and it is how not to be vulnerable.
Hey, while you take the next comment, I'm going to type into the chat because it might be helpful. The 7 defense mechanisms of the ego, which are the opposite of vulnerability. So talk to us.
Perfect.
So I've been living as if vulnerability is a choice, meaning that I first choose the people I want to be vulnerable with. Then I am vulnerable with them. And so there's this little special club of people with whom I'm vulnerable, my BFFs. And what I'm discovering is that, wow, I'm shutting myself out of being in meaningful relationships with a lot of other people. As if, I've been priding myself as someone who is vulnerable, but only choosing who I want to be vulnerable with. And what I'm discovering is that I have been literally a hiding meaning the very people who are most important in my life are some of the ones I choose not to be vulnerable.
Interesting.
And then I find a way to point to them and say, they're just not that space for vulnerability.
Interesting.
Ooh, safety net.
Yeah. So I'm going to take a leap today and create vulnerability with some of the unchosen ones.
Oh my goodness. It's so interesting what you're saying. Would love to hear how that goes, because it is like, it's looking at how our brains do that. It's like it tricks us, right? Into telling us, well, this is going to keep me safe and I'm not going to do this because, when then we go, whoops, that gets overdeveloped. And then you say, I'm actually holding myself back from having, and you're in charge of you. You can share and be vulnerable and they don't have to reciprocate. And you're in charge of you, how that makes you feel, how you process, how that makes you feel like you truly are safe. I love that.
You're thinking maybe I do that too. And I think I do it because sometimes I think if certain people are so much not in that space, I don't want to make them uncomfortable. And maybe that's what I need to leap over, is the worry about making somebody else uncomfortable. It's not a bad thing to be uncomfortable, is it, Kathryn?
No, I mean, we're all going to be uncomfortable at some point. You might as well embrace it.
Yeah.
It's a lot more energy and effort, kind of like those conversations you said you don't want to have anymore about decorating and whatever. It's like, it's a lot of mental energy to try and avoid discomfort. Yeah. Thank you, Sorrel.
Thank you.
Chase.
Grand Rising, everyone. Wow. Cue the vulnerability music. I was thinking when you were talking about the crossroads or the counterpoint of truth and vulnerability, two words that are intertwined quite nicely on a lot of levels. But for me, as soon as you started speaking about vulnerability, I immediately equated it to strong men, or seemingly strong men, who are taught that vulnerability is not the card to play ever. You stay within your lane and you're convicted in what you say, and you don't have to let anybody into the bits that, where you're scarred. And I had a very, very strong relationship that ended. And I felt that what my partner had never gotten was vulnerability. And I poured all my vulnerability on, right? Just to open it up, just to be clear, just to be transparent. And I feel like it backfired on me. And that's what made me feel really like, it made me more sensitive, because I could have been like, I don't want to talk about this. This is done. We're not talking about this anymore. I'm moving on. You do what you do. I do what I got to do. That would have been like the common way if I was speaking to some of my people, right? But I let it all go. All the story, all the crying, everything, I let it go. And it didn't affect her the way I thought it would. And it made her more concave in a sense, and then slip away. But I believe that vulnerability is, like Sorrel said, you choose who you're vulnerable with, but many times you choose who you're vulnerable with because they show you their vulnerability. You find your home, you can connect to it. I find that that's what's happened for me. And most people say, if you talk to Chase, he's going to tell you the truth. If he feels something, he's going to let you know. And it's true. Like, I'll let you know, but I'll also walk with you. I'll also take your hand and be like, look, when I did this, this is how it is for me. And you can do it, this way. And in this time, this very time, like in this year, I am the most vulnerable I've ever been in my life because of past scrapes and scars, and being on the daily huddle and having little scoops of me extracted from different topics that we've had, which is a beautiful thing.
I love what you say about what one of the things you're saying is we invite people to be by being how we are.
Right.
You're saying,
Right.
if I'm vulnerable, I'm inviting them to be vulnerable. If I'm not vulnerable, I'm not really invited. You can't, you know what I'm saying? We invite them with how we show up and who we are.
They can feel
Totally.
safe.
Right. And they can
Totally.
choose to come in or not. And then, so that's, I love that. Thank you for
But your
bringing.
soul knows that, is what I'm
Mhm.
saying.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just going to say one quick thing before I go. A great friend of mine that I've known since 2000, I was on the phone with him one day and we were talking, and I was in the midst of a serious breakdown. And I tried so hard to hold it while I was on the phone with him. And then all of a sudden I went, click, waterworks, 1,000 waterworks. He was like, dude, are you okay? I was like, no, I'm not. He was like, all right, cool. This is where we're at. I couldn't have done that unless prior situations had not let me know that that was a safe area for me.
Yeah, that's great.
Very powerful. So
Thank you. Thank you for sharing, Chase.
Yeah.
Gosh, I love all these hands up. Cece.
Good morning. I love this topic. Thank you. Thank you all for your shares. What I'm getting out of this is that for me to be vulnerable is to put my heart out on the line. And that means no matter what, get past or just be with the fear. Because one of my biggest fears was to do stand-up comedy. And yeah, because I would freeze whenever I felt myself getting stuck. And so now I'm experiencing being vulnerable. People don't even know that I'm freezing. And so now I said, okay, I'm gonna add singing to it. So I don't sing, but I'm preparing myself. And today is my first singing lessons. And so I'm ready. I'm vulnerable. I'm going to put it out all on the line, and people are going to be able to see the real CC. And that's the vulnerability that I'm presenting to everyone instead of a mask. So my heart is going to be out there. And thank you for letting me be vulnerable with you guys. I pass.
Outrageous. That's awesome.
Thank you, Cece. I love how you push yourself. Gio.
Yes, thank you. What a great conversation. One of the things that was triggering for me in the possibility of being vulnerable is it's such a what's the word? It's such a difficult dance at this point for me, because one is that it reminds me of my childhood, I become really young. And so the times where the vulnerability was coming up for me, maybe is right before I became a teenager, around those times. And being vulnerable was silly. It was dumb, people laughed at it, like the weak person, like, yeah, it was a period of, for me to develop the development of my character. The strength of my character was to be able to let things go quickly, not taking things personal. So saying something that meant something for me, like I got hurt by a friend or by my parents was counterproductive for the strength of my character.
Got it. Yeah.
Right. And then now as an adult, wherever I'm trying to build a wall or character or strength, it creates a royal mess. Like vulnerability is the way to get to someone's heart, to get to have an intimate relationship. But it can't be a strategy either. I can't get in front of the room, because I lead a lot, and then think of a vulnerable story. So I can connect with people. If I do that, it's really transparent. I can't fake vulnerability either. So it's this thing that happens from a moment to moment. I can't call for it. I can't plan it. It's like being fully present to the possibility of a relationship at that very moment and let it rip. Like, just say what's there and allow for whatever is going to show up for the end of the relationship or for the beginning of that relationship or for some, but allow it from that emotion of fear, and that soup creates miracles.
Yeah.
It can be planned. It's
I
just,
love that.
it happens in
I
that
love
moment.
that you're bringing presence into the mix, because you're absolutely right. To think about being vulnerable and then go deliver your vulnerability is kind of comical.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's kind of contrived.
Yeah. Permission to go over a couple of minutes, co-host. We've still got some hands raised and I know we're at time, but I just want to hear what these folks have to say. You good with that? You, Tara, I'm asking you.
Oh, yeah, I'm good.
Go for it, Stan. We're not going off yet. We're going forward.
Permission.
Permission granted. Stan, what you got?
I think that maybe eating a whole pot of healthy greens, a big whole pot of healthy greens at one eating wouldn't make you feel too doggone good. You'd probably be really stuffed and have a problem. So maybe sometime we just ought to release a little bit of vulnerability at a time. If it comes to be a moment where we just released it all of that time, for better or worse, and we didn't think about it, that's probably the right thing to do. Because we just did it, and we didn't know we were going to do it. So for better or worse, it probably was the right thing to do, and we may not see it at the moment. But maybe we need to do it like that. The other thing is, Mastermind, take a look in all the chats. Mastermind Sorrel is going to be on the open mind tonight. Conversations with Sorrel. And awesome. I want you all to attend if you can. So just check out.
You.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. And I think, thank you for that reminder, because again, vulnerability isn't like, verbal vomit, where you just have to do it all at one time. Sometimes it's really vulnerable to hold back, because I have to be present with myself, with where I am, and go, sometimes I think people share all this stuff because they want to feel less burdened, or they want to, and like, no, sometimes vulnerability is holding back. I thank you for bringing that, because it's so true. And we'll grab that mastermind information for tonight with Sorrel. Rashida.
Hi, good morning, my family daily huddle. I love just the word, trust me. When we, for me, vulnerability is a word that people will say that you're weak if you cannot express that feelings. And mind you, I think the universe picked each one of us to give us what we can handle and what we can bear. And why I say can bear is that I remember last year, July, when my boyfriend was in coma for a whole 30 days. Trust me, that was when I know how strong a human being can be, or how weak can you be. And why I say that is because I used to see my brother-in-law and friends and family, how is he doing? How you doing? Trust me, that strength that we have to build and rebuild to be able to face the consequence of life is what I would not say that you're weak. It's just that your vulnerability is stronger, and you're going to feed it accordingly of what the universe and what life entails. So much for the topics, Tara and Kathryn.
Thank you. Yeah, this is amazing to hear everybody's stories, definitions, experiences with it, because it does show up. I mean, I'm learning, oh my gosh, this could go on forever, but I'm hearing so many different things and how it shows up for people. Okay, last one before we do have to sign off. Ron, tell us what you got.
Yeah, I'll be very quick. I mean, I usually listen to this thing and also, really pull online with whatever is being spoken about. Kind of really get a good insight on vulnerability by reading the seven defense of mechanism of the ego,
Mhm.
and looking at that really really find all the different aspects in life that create vulnerability. Like it's almost like every single one seems to be a form of holding back, which
Mhm.
is in the ego that really stop you from being vulnerable. So I'm thinking, I'm just reading them and I'm saying, okay, so I need to see where in my life those seven defense mechanism has been showing up that really stopped me from really being vulnerable. So if you guys probably, I'm making the suggestion that we take one, for the next 7 weeks and look at it as individually, like regression, denial, all these one, to see exactly where in your life you have been using this mechanism that really stop you from being vulnerable. So
Mm.
that's my
That's
point.
such wisdom. Thank you. Yes, each one of them, we all find ourselves sublimating, denying, displacing. Yeah, it'd be really quite an interesting intention.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you,
All right.
Ron.
That's all I got.
Thank you. Thank you,
Great
everybody,
topic
for being.
overall. Good job.
So, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you all for being vulnerable, for showing up, and for allowing us to be vulnerable. The one last thought that pops in my head is sometimes I think for me, I like to control what people see, like how they see me. And so that sometimes is where we do that oversharing and like, wow, how vulnerable is it to not be able to control what people see in us, that they get to have their experience and we may never know what that is. And yet we get to still keep being ourselves, just like you said, Tara, and living free. So thank you all for joining us and for being in this safe space to be able to have this conversation. We're going to close out with our 7 tenets, 7 minutes late. Love everyone. Eat more plants, treat your body well, get some sleep. Those things will help you to relax more and stress less. And so will laughter. Laugh, find reasons to laugh at life. There's silliness all around, opportunities everywhere. And give of your heart and your vulnerability and your presence and let people see you. And move that body. We'll see y'all next time on the Daily Huddle.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank
This
you.
was
Excellent
so
job.
Thank you all.
Love,
Thank you
guys.
all.
One
Ready
love.
for
Thank
this.
you,
One
family.
love.
Thank you, Daily Huddle family.